There is a man in America who wrote so many books. His books have been translated many languages, Carl Sagan. Now, recently, few years ago, about 15 years ago, knowledge of animals have come to play. Those who specialize on research of animals. And among them is Peter Krause. Peter Krause is one of the best minds in the behavior of animals. And he wrote a book. And in that book, he made mention of a miracle akin to one particular animal, that is the camel. So in that book, he said, he gave us about 25 attributes and mysteries in the camels. But he's late. It's less than 20 years he came out with this information. He was clapped all over the world, giving Nobel Prize and money that he came about with this research of the Qur'an. Of an animal, and he ended up with the camel. But this is what Allah said. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ وَإِلَى الْجِبَالِ كَيْفَ نُصِبَتْ وَإِلَى الْأَرْضِ كَيْفَ سُطِّيَتْ. 3 scientific applications in one verse, beginning with the camel. Afala, don't you see how camels are created? In other words, what's wrong with you? Look at the camel. There are some mysteries in the camel which you don't know. So when this verse came, the Messenger Muhammad was ridiculed. The Arabs, they said, Abul Qasim, what's wrong with you? We ride on camels, man. We take a trip from one place to another on a camel. We eat the flesh. We use the skin to cover ourselves, and we make tent with it. Why are you telling us about the camel? Oh, so your God is talking about animals now? Don't your God have something serious to say about animals? What are you talking about? Afala yanzuruna. But today, Professor Krause wrote a book. In that book, he gave a lot of mysteries of animals, but that of the camel supersedes them all. He said, the camel is the sheep of the desert. Or is the sheep, a sheep of the desert. Look at the mystery of camel. You know, the camel weighs close to a ton and over. That means the camel is, the weight of the camel is close to a small or a medium-sized, pickup truck. Very heavy. Coupled with that, the camel is loaded with goods that they make business from one nation to other nation. And the camel is gliding on the soil of the desert. Think, if you go to the desert and you begin to walk in the sun, even though you're walking, but you keep coming back. You see, you walk, but it draws you back because you sink in the camel. The camel does not sink. It is so heavy, it should sink. It got load also, it must sink. The camel does not sink. Why? At the ankle of a camel is, a mechanism that looks like a shock absorber at the base of the ankle. So the camel actually glides on the desert. It doesn't sink. So Allah said, أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. Don't you see how we created the camel? The camel is the only animal that have in-depth photographic memory. Most animals have memories, but the camel own is too deep. Why? Scientists say that. They said anywhere the camel step on, it goes to the back of his brain. It's like a fire. The camel, anytime or anywhere the camel make a step, it stays at the back of his brain. He never forget that area. Can you imagine right now if I'm going to give you, or you're going to give me a direction, go to Aslo Rock, but just go straight. It's a gas station, make a left. Towards the end, there's a yellow house. You give directions with some, or identifiable locations. But imagine when you live in the desert. Back then, in the 7th century, over 1,000 years, desert sea. You look at the desert from here to like 20, 40 miles away of sand dune. How can you give someone a direction? Allah gave them who live in the desert a camel. The camel have photographic memory to help them traverse in the desert. Within few minutes, if there is a sand dune, within 5, 6, 7 minutes, the shifting wind will make it flat again. So if you give somebody a sign, oh, just go behind the sand dune, within few minutes, the shifting wind will make it flat. How can you sustain, the direction? But the camel helped the dwellers of the desert. Anytime it moves, if you have a black cloth and you tie the face of the camel, and you ride the camel from here to, let's say, Kubwa, and you turn the camel around, the camel is going to walk on the same place that he took 15 minutes ago without making any turn. Because anywhere it sets its feet, there is a photographic memory, the camel stored it there. So Allah said, أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. If you can get very close to camel, try that. I did that once in Hadejah some years back. Go close to the camel. If the camel doesn't know you, it might speak on your face. But if you get very close, look in the eye of the camel. There is a brown, dark linen, it's like a line, which acts as a windshield wiper because of the immense of the desert sand. When the sun is too much, it comes out, overlap naturally, it wipes. It's like a windshield wiper, wiping the eye of the camel. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. The camel actually dodges the heat wave. 90 degrees, 120 degrees in the Arabian desert or the sub-Saharan desert beyond Mali, going to Libya. Very, very hot. The camel doesn't feel the heat. Why? At the hump of the camel, there is, that hump, it does two things. Number one, it stores fats so that the camel will have more energy to walk. The second thing it does, there is something within the hump. If you shave the hump, you see a tiny, holes. Science called that somites. What it does is that it absorbs the heat ray of the camel. The heat goes straight to the chute in the back. In other words, the camel dodges the heat. So in the evening, when it's time for the camel to rest, it's a beautiful thing to see. It locks its leg like this and goes down. Once it goes down, the hump opens up and the heat evaporates. The camel dodges the heat. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. The parts of the camel that touches the ground when it's too hot is 10 times thicker than the regular body. All the part that touches the ground, if the camel goes down, is 10 times thicker than the body or the rest of the skin. Why? Because the camel does not feel the heat. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. In the stomach of the camel is 3 ruminant chambers. The one that it eats and digests. The second one is where it stores its water. If a camel walk right now outside, drink water that is dirty water, wallahi, within few minutes, that water will turn itself to become pure water. It's not too hot, not too cold. In between. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. So back then, the Arabs who live in the desert, they want some water. Water is precious. They kill a whole camel, eat the meat, whatever they could take, maybe take the skin and drink the water. But now, the Johnson & Johnson pharmaceutical company have developed a mechanism. That mechanism, you just simply spray at the base of the camel's stomach. Leave it for a few minutes. Once you're done, get a knife and cut it. The camel does not feel the pain. It's like anesthetic. So you could just go through and grab, the stomach the one that have the water. Drink the water, make wudu, push it back, spray it again. Few hours, the camel is back to normal. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. And on. All the animals, they produce their own vitamin C if they eat, whatever they eat. But a camel is in the desert. It produces, is the only animal that produces its own vitamin C to be able to live in the desert. There is no vegetation. Allah gave the camel an elongated tongue. It goes through the thorn. It's so beautiful. If you see the camel with the tongue going around, the thorns, pick up the leaves and turn it around again and swallow it. This is a mystery. It doesn't poke the sensitive, tongue of the camel. That is a mystery that scientists cannot explain.